This is an iPhone 3GS released by Apple almost 17 years ago. And today I want to find out if this thing can run Android, which now that I've said out loud sounds kind of insane. But I've always been so fascinated by the idea of running Android on its arch nemesis. There's a bunch of random stuff you're about to see me do, like jailbreaking a 17-year-old iPhone. But will all of that be worth it to see Android run on this iPhone 3GS? Now, I should acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is, why an iPhone 3GS? You would think newer iPhones would be a better option for running Android. There's something called Project Sandcastles, which can run on iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. Who even has the 7 and 7 Plus? But that's where the iPhone 3 comes in. See, way back in the day, there was a project called iDroid, and users with jailbroken iPhones could actually install Android, which is insane. The only downside is iDroid can't be installed on iOS 6, which is running on this iPhone. So we're gonna have to find a way to downgrade it to iOS 3.1.3. This might be obvious to say, but Apple wasn't a big fan of you downgrading your phone. It opens you up to a bunch of security problems and, God forbid, better performance. However, I did a little digging and I came across a community tool called Legacy iOS Kit. I had never heard of this tool before, but apparently it should allow me to downgrade this iPhone. So let's do this thing. Restore, downgrade, and activate iPhone 3GS. That's what we want. Okay. What I'm really concerned about is absolutely cooking my iPhone. I don't want to brick it. Okay, so we need to plug in the iPhone. There we go. iPhone 3GS, iOS version 6.1.6. Okay, so that's what we're trying to change here. So it's downloading 3.1.3. Okay, entering recovery mode. It's freaking happening, bro. Let's go. So while this is doing this, I just want to talk through the next steps, right? Assuming the downgrade works, the next thing we'll have to do is jailbreak the phone again. Doing so makes it possible to install Cydia, an unofficial app store from years ago, which is how I plan to install an app called Bootlace. The Bootlace apps allows us to easily do the most important steps, like installing OpenIBoot, which makes it possible to dual boot Android with iOS. And of course, installing iDroid, which is the modified version of Android that can run, apparently, on this iPhone. And while we're here, massive shout out to the absolute legends who build this kind of stuff so that we can mess around with it. I will not pretend to know what is actually happening right now to make this work. Restoring is done. It's telling me that I need to connect to iTunes. That's not good. Okay, we're rebooting. It was actually just stuck in activation mode, which is great because you can just use the same tool and now we're in, which is fantastic. Yes, 3.1.3. We can now jailbreak the device. Aha, perfect. Okay, now we're jailbreaking the device. We've made it far out. It looks like, yes. Okay, we are now jailbroken. There is our one true love, Cydia. So, now that this is jailbroken, let's try and download everything we need. Okay, so here we are. Let's see if Cydia is working now. Still cooking up. So I'm currently having an issue with the iPhone being stuck on a Cydia loop. Essentially, Cydia just keeps telling me that it's prepping file system. I've done a restart. Let's see if it still does it. Son of a biscuit. So after running to Reddit for help, I created a blank file that was meant to trick Cydia. But now when we open this, theoretically, all of this is always just theory. Here we go. Let's see if that works. So let's go open Cydia. That did not work. Just jailbroke it again, still having the same issue, which is super bizarre. I actually haven't had this problem before. I'm clearly forgetting all the issues I had when I first tried to jailbreak this iPhone 3GS. Don't worry everyone, I'll work it out in a second. Let's freaking go. Okay, we have made it into Cydia. That took way too long. I jailbroke it like 3 times, but we're here and that's all that matters. So with the iPhone 3GS jailbroken, I went looking for Bootlace. This app is our key to getting Android installed on the iPhone. But after booting it for the very first time, I noticed a pretty significant problem. It's been almost 4 months since the last thing you just saw, and I am yet to install Android on an iPhone. See, I thought my biggest problem was going to be downgrading my iPhone 3GS to 3.1.3, when in fact, it turns out that you can't even install Android on an iPhone 3GS. How did I miss that? How did I freaking miss that? From my limited understanding, I think it has something to do with the fact that 3GS is running an ARM v7 processor as opposed to the ARM v6 processor in the original iPhone that can run Android. Which, you know what that means. I bought a freaking iPhone. The very first one. Yes, let's go. I'll never get over how small these feel in my hand. iPhone 3GS meet iPhone 2G. Now, just in case you were wondering, the iPhone 2G cannot run Minecraft. I already went down that rabbit hole. And huge shout out to the person I bought this from in China. They jailbroke it, which is awesome. So we don't have to go through everything we just did, well, we did 3 months ago for the 3GS. I'm starting to get excited again. Now, just a quick refresher, our steps are still the same here. We have the phone jailbroken now, which is great. We need to move on to installing Bootlace. With Bootlace installed, we should be able to install Open iBoot, and then we should be able to install iDroid. So let's try and install Android on this iPhone 2G. Oh, so good. The first thing we need to do is connect to Wi-Fi. That has connected, which is already super impressive in itself. Can we load anything up? That's kind of crazy. So now we want to head over to Cydia here. So it actually looks like the person who jailbroke it set it up with everything it needed to be usable, which is awesome. A few things are failing. A lot of these repos are down. They don't work anymore, which is my biggest concern for trying to download Bootlace again. I'm hoping I can find a repo that has it. Cydia has crashed on us altogether. Unable to load. Okay, yeah, we're having some issues here. So I thought we would get away with this, but we didn't, which is that the iPhone has a secure connection issue where it's failing. Put simply, the iPhone just isn't compatible with modern internet standards. Things like SSL, HTTPS, all of those things we just use today really cause problems for old tech like the iPhone. So unless you find a way to fix these security issues, Cydia can't connect to repos. A repo is essentially just a library of apps, like a database. And if you can't connect to repos, you can't download apps like Bootlace, which again is our gateway to Android on an iPhone. Okay, what we're gonna try and do is install an SSL patch. This should hopefully let us use Cydia. It's always theoretical. Okay, installing the repo doesn't work, so I can't repatch it, but what I can do is try and install a certificate. Okay, cool. Older versions of iPhone OS aren't new enough to have modern security certificate authorities trusted. My next attempt is to download the certificate and transfer it from my Mac to the iPhone. Let's see if that works. Guys, we have got Cydia working again, which means we should be able to download Bootlace. Boom. Okay, that was way harder than it should have been. Essentially, we needed to install two things. The first thing was a set of certificates to help this thing connect to the modern internet. And then the second thing we had to do was install a thing called HTTPS patch. And originally, I was struggling to install it because Cydia was just glitching out every time I tried to install things. So I sideloaded it to the iPhone using a thing called iFunbox, and that technically didn't work, except I was able to then go into Cydia and press reinstall, and that freaking worked. Old stuff, am I right? What's up? Wait, now that we've got that working, let's try and download Bootlace. So we're gonna go search, and I think we already have a package for this, so we can go Bootlace. There it is. Allows installation of iDroid and Open iBoot. Okay, let's do it. Install. Okay, I think that's installed. Let's go back. Oh. Okay, I don't want to celebrate too soon. I was about to get excited, but we haven't even opened it yet. Let's try and open Bootlace. Reboot required. I think it's done everything it needs to do. Let's open up Bootlace again. Welcome to Bootlace, you son of a biscuit. Okay, Bootlace is installed. Fantastic. The iDroid tab will allow you to install iDroid on your device. Quick Boot allows you to reboot your device into the selected OS. Dude, this is crazy. Okay, so we're gonna hit install Open iBoot. I'm kind of too scared to put the iPhone down now that this is doing its thing, so I guess we're stuck here. Open iBoot has installed. We can check that one off the list. We are yet to answer the age-old question of, do you actually want Android to run on an iPhone? But either way, this is friggin' sick. If it wasn't for the community keeping all this stuff alive, we wouldn't be able to make videos like this. We wouldn't be able to even try this. I freaking love old stuff. I just actually love old stuff. Okay, I'm gonna leave this go and do its thing for a second. We will be right back. The time has come. Let's double check that we have everything we need to make this work. We have Open iBoot. Yes, that's working. And we have iDroid, which is also installed. Now we need to find out if it works. This has been a long time coming. This will reboot your device into Android immediately. Are you sure? Yes. Woo! There's the Android logo. Come on. I can't even see what it's doing because the screen is so small. No way! That is so sick. No freaking way. I cannot believe Android is loaded. I was about to say just like that, but it literally took way too long to get here. But we made it. But before you go out and buy yourself an iPhone 2G and try and install Android on it to daily drive it, there's a few things you need to know. Most importantly, you can't actually take calls or even use Wi-Fi as far as I can tell. And there's no drivers to support multi-touch, so it feels like you're using a phone that's way older than it actually is. Plus, in general, it's kind of useless and there's not a lot you can do with it. However, it's still pretty sick, so let's keep looking around. Does Home work like that? I don't think it does. Does Android even have a swipe down from the top 15 years ago? Let's have a look at what messaging is like on here. New message, compose. Not great either, it's very, very laggy. How cool, man. That is unreal. Would I recommend doing this? Probably not. As much as I'm trying, I can't really do a lot right now with this iPhone, so it's probably not really worth it. But it is a neat party trick, and that is essentially what my entire channel is. One big party trick. Android version 2.3.2, and it's running on an iPhone 2G. Now I just need to work out what to do with this thing. I guess you better subscribe to find out.